All right, hi, I'm Sean Ray. I'm here with Dave Candy for MDTV. We're at the 2007 25-year anniversary of the NPC National Championships. Dave, you came in from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How did you qualify for this competition?
I qualified last year at the 2006 Nationals.
And you're bantamweight. What is that weight category for the bantamweights?
It's under 143 and a quarter pounds.
You came in at how much tonight?
142.8.
Well, last night was the prejudging. What did you feel about the call-outs? I know you were in the first call-outs. You got a good look. How did you feel as far as going through all the call-outs and all the number of competitors?
It was one of the biggest, the biggest bantamweight class that I've ever seen. And it was pretty competitive, but I got the first call-out, which is a good sign, and I felt pretty competitive within that call-out, so hopefully I take the top spot, but you never want to count your chickens before they hatch.
Right, well, we know there's going to be several pro cards given out tonight in the contest. Like you said, no matter how well you thought you did last night, it's not over until it's over. You know, being a bantamweight, what does it represent to you, having the opportunity to get a pro card? Because over the years, traditionally, we haven't seen very many bantamweights go on and actually get the pro card and utilize it. They typically come back or they'll go compete in the universe. I'm in the process of working with the IFBB trying to create that under 202 category. I'm not sure if the bantamweights, lightweights, middleweights are getting, you know, the wind of that movement for you guys having opportunity to make money. But let's say you win your pro card. Where's your head at once that happens?
Actually, I really have. I was excited to hear about the under 210 show that they just ran and how successful that was. So I think it creates a good opportunity for smaller bodybuilders, whereas previously, once you win your pro card, it's kind of like a dead-end street.
Yeah. Did you ever see yourself, I mean, you're 24 years old, did you ever see yourself one day like having a pro card and possibly competing on a pro bodybuilding stage, or is this something that just you've gone one contest level to the next while going to university?
It's pretty much something I've gone one to the next. I initially started out wrestling, had no intentions of ever bodybuilding, anything like that, and eventually I just got hooked on the weight training, started into it, and just got more and more involved until I got to this level.
Yeah, now being a bantamweight, who are your role models? I mean, we know there's not a lot of big little guys up there in the IFBB on the pro circuit doing a lot of damage. When you think of the little big guys, we're thinking of guys like David Henry, maybe a Silvio Samuel. Are those guys that you look at and kind of say, I can do that? Or are you looking at guys like Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, and when you're in the gym training, visualizing yourself as some of the bigger guys? Or is it just, you know, you rely on what it is that you do?
I think guys like Lee Priest, it's amazing what they can do with a body structure and be competitive, at least in the same league with some of those bigger guys. For a lot of people, that's not possible, don't have the genetics or time or whatever or drive, motivation, whatever the reason may be, to compete at that level against that type of competition. But I think the under 210 class will certainly help that a little bit.
Well, I know Bob Ciccarello, the IFBB Pro Athletes rep, lobbied at this year's Mr. Olympia to actually have the 210 reduced down to 202. Because a lot of guys are coming down from 235, 240 pounds to qualify for the 210 category, which kind of negated the actual reason for having the smaller guys. So 202, we feel a lot of those bigger guys won't diet down that far to give up that much muscle simply to compete in that category, which actually works in your favor, being that you'd be on the bottom end of that category. Do you see yourself, if you win your pro card, gaining a lot of weight in order to compete with those guys? Will you continually look at the scale and the mirror to utilize those tools to gauge your conditioning?
I think on some level you have to. Mass rules in this sport, whether we like to face it or not sometimes. And I think to some extent you need to put size on. You can't be competitive, I don't think, at 143 pounds. So I will need to bulk up initially, but I got to the level I'm at by having good solid conditioning and proportion and focusing on quality rather than mass, and I don't want to sacrifice that just in a hunt to get up to that 202 mark.
Yeah, I think you're right. You hit it right on the mark, because I was one of the smaller bodybuilders. I actually turned pro at 198 pounds. But my maximum weight on stage was like 212 pounds. I didn't go and gain 20, 30 pounds in order to compete against them. I constantly used the mirror as my guide to compete against what my best conditioning was, and it seemed to work well for me. We know that some other guys, like Dexter Jackson. Dexter Jackson actually started his career as a bantamweight bodybuilder. So it's not impossible to pack on the extra size, but I think it's how you go about doing it and the timeline that you use that. I think, you're probably better served not trying to put on 20 pounds simply because you get your pro card to compete against the bigger guys, if conditioning, symmetry, and detail is what gets you your pro card. I'm going to play devil's advocate. Let's say for whatever reason tonight you don't get your pro card. Where does a guy like yourself go from here?
You just keep trying at it again. I mean, it takes people years and years, and I'm pretty young. I'm only 24, so I've got time on my side, and getting up to the upper levels, get there someday.
Yeah. Well, I'm Sean Ray with MDTV, and Dave Candy. We're going to wish him well. You remind me a lot of Mark Dugdale, very humble, and you got your feet are on the ground, firmly implanted. You know what your goals are, and if this isn't the end of the road tonight, if it doesn't happen for you, but you're a very good opportunity to win.
Well, thank you, and let's hope that's what happens.
All right, Sean Ray for MDTV.